It's Monday, that means it's time for a Halo Q&A. So for those of you just joining, the rules are actually pretty simple. All you have to do is leave your Halo-related questions in the comments section below, and they may show up on next week's show. So guys, we are going to start this week off with a question from Strandy. And so he says, okay, so I got a question. You know back in Halo 2 on the mission Delta Halo, and the one where you kill the Prophet? What was up with all those ancient destroyed buildings? And the ones that were under the ocean? Were the Halo rings supposed to be lived on? I know in Halo 4 there was a cutscene where it had humans on the rings, but these buildings were not made by humans. So why were they there? And I can understand the buildings in Halo 1, but these rock buildings, I don't get. So, to answer your question, at least for me, now don't quote me on this, you know, this is what I always thought. So, during the Bungie days of Halo, I always suspected that the Forerunners, metal wasn't the only resource that they made their buildings out of. I could visualize them kind of like, when it came to the Forerunners, we never knew anything about them, but in my mind, I always pictured them as monks. You know, I think of Russian Orthodox monks the way maybe the Forerunners, they even had certain kind of sects that would branch off and they'd kind of live in isolation and kind of like a monastery, and they'd build these beautiful temples and stuff just to honor life and so on. So I don't know, maybe that's what these buildings are. They're just temples made by the Forerunners. And obviously when 343 joined in, they began retconning a few things, adding some new things to the Forerunners lore and stuff. So when it came to 343's interpretation, that becomes a little bit more fuzzy because their version of the Forerunners seemed very much more focused on the metal that they use and stuff to build things. So I don't know. Now, one possibility is that maybe these temples were actually made by ancient humans on the Halo rings. Now, obviously, I have no idea, and I know that there are some people in my comment section who are probably already typing the reason why. So for some of you guys who maybe are more well-versed in the lore than I am, maybe you can answer this question. So I hope that I answered it to the best of my abilities. So we're going to move on to a Ninja Samurai, who says, Q&A. Do you believe that if 343 fully fixed the Master Chief Collection, people would go back to it because it is a wonderful game? And if everybody returned to a fully fixed game, I believe that it would be a really good thing for Halo, as the new players get Halo 5 and 6, whereas the old players get a fully functioning Master Chief Collection, and hopefully Halo 3 Anniversary. The reason I believe that people won't return is because they have either sold it or refused to use it because it was broken at launch. However, I believe this is pretty ridiculous, as everyone was crazy super excited for the game, with people saying that 343 had fully redeemed themselves by making it. And so if you love it but refuse to play it because it did not work, then I can't see your reasoning. So, to answer your question, the reason a lot of people don't play the Master Chief Collection still is, you're right, probably a lot of people did use it. And also, probably another thing is people still have it, but they still have memories from when it was broken, and they just don't know that a lot of its issues have been resolved. That being said, though, the Master Chief Collection is still a very broken collection of games. All of the ports have frame rate issues. Lots of them can't really sustain a 60 frames per second mark. I also know that Halo 4's port specifically has a lot of frame rate issues, as well as a few glitches like button prompts not showing up correctly, as well as a few animation errors. The carbine actually in Halo 4, the sprinting animation is actually currently broken. If you sprint with the carbine in Halo 4, there will be a split second where your arm will like freak out and fly across the screen, and it's just a second, and if you're quick you can notice it, but you know, so there are a lot of issues with a lot of the ports across the Master Chief Collection, as well as custom games and the servers for custom games, you know, those being like host, client, I believe. Like client side, like basically you have hosts for your custom games, but the net coding isn't particularly great, so you'll see lots of crashes, you'll see lots of people lagging around and stuff. So the Master Chief Collection is still very much broken for all intents and purposes, but something that I feel like maybe I can agree with to some extent is that some people are a little bit too hard on it, like, but, you know, ultimately at the end of the day, I do feel that it's a great game, sadly bogged down by just an immense amount of performance and technical related issues, and I can understand why people wouldn't want to play that. You know, they don't want to have to go through loopholes and literally activate glitches to sort out other glitches. You know, like, I can't even begin to list all the exploits that I've learned to kind of work my way around bugs in the Master Chief Collection, and that's not good if you have to break the game in order to solve some of the game's game-breaking bugs. But I hope that answers your questions, dude. So we're gonna move on to a Silver Taurus, who says, Halo Q&A, hey, I'm new to the channel and I'm loving what you're putting out there. Well, thank you. But back to the topic. Do you think 343 has it in them to bring back the story for Halo 6? I've also seen some of your other videos as well, especially about what the Kraken could have become. And I thought, didn't the scarab start out the same way, just as an object with aliens on it before making its way into becoming its own unit? If that's the case, then 343 could create their own Forerunner equivalent, or maybe bring the scarab or Kraken back while making it a unit as well. That's all I have to say, and great work on your videos. Well, thank you for all your compliments! So to answer your first question, I believe 343 can bring the story back. Right now, they're in a very tough position, definitely. I don't particularly like this arc that they're going for with the generic AI takeover. I'm very much not happy with the decision to bring Cortana back and make her the main antagonist. Overall, I'm not very invested in this story, and in fact, I feel like the only thing that's really keeping me going is I'm curious to see if they're gonna be able to salvage the story. So what I'm hoping for is Halo 6, we kill Cortana or whatever, and then Halo just goes back to normal, and we start getting more interesting stories. You know, enough with, like, the AI takeovers. Like, that's such a overplayed trope, and the sad thing about Halo 5 is it did the most generic version of the AI takeover trope. So overall, I don't think that this story arc will be very compelling or interesting, but I do suspect that Halo 6 will have considerably better storytelling than Halo 5 did. And then to go on your thing about the Kraken and stuff, you're very right to draw those comparisons between the Halo 2 version of the Scarab as well as the Halo 5 Kraken. Both those vehicles were very much on rails and not their own units. But I feel that it's not really fair to kind of make that comparison because Halo 2 was on very outdated hardware, and there was a reason for why they had to make the Scarab on rails. Where Halo 5, you're using an Xbox One, which is much more powerful than the Xbox 360, and the Xbox 360 being a machine that could turn the Scarab into its own unit as well as generate some pretty good-looking games. And with Halo 5, I feel that for 3, they shouldn't have played it so safe. I also do think that when it comes to Halo 5, there was a lot of over-optimization. Like, 343 was so scared that the game wasn't going to be locked at 60 frames per second that they went out of their way to downgrade and cut certain parts of the game that they really didn't need to. Like, I think of the enemies running at lower frame rate, like their animation frames being cut so that all the enemies in the game kind of almost look like GIFs moving across the screen, you know, with how choppy some of their animations are. I think of how short and how tight and scripted and linear all the levels are in comparison to other Halo games. Like, overall, I feel there was a lot of over-optimization that if 343 wanted, if they really wanted to push the Xbox One, they could have gotten a lot more out of it, but they were just too scared that they wouldn't reach their 60 frames per second mark. So I hope that answers your questions. So we are going to go on to a question from Spartan Sniper, who says, Q&A. 1. What do you think of the constant change of playlists in Arena? I'm tired of having to hold the craving of playing Fiesta or Team Snipers but not being able to. What even happened to shoddy snipers? Number 2, do you think weapon attachments like the kinetic bolt, silencer, extra ammo, and etc. should return in Halo 6? I know it adds a new layer of variety, but I have mixed feelings about them. I would prefer them working more on new weapons instead of more attachments. Number 3, Should the Reach grenade launcher and the Brute motorcycle contraption, I really don't remember the name, sorry, do you think they should make a comeback in Halo 5 or Halo 6? Sorry for the long read. Discovered your channel a few weeks ago, and I'm loving your content about Halo 5. Your discussions on the game and how to improve it seem interesting. Keep up the good work. So thank you so much. For your first question, what do I think about the constant change of playlists in Arena? I'm not happy with them. I'm very much not happy that things like Shoddy Snipers or even Team Snipers aren't their own playlists. I'm not happy with the way that it seems like, Social Slayer was removed. It was here for a week, and then it was removed. Like, it feels very much like 343 trying to maintain the player base by kind of like basically holding certain favorite game modes hostage to make you come back. Like, basically the logic behind it is, alright, it's launch day. Everyone buys Halo 5, they play it for a few weeks, and then they start to drop off because they're getting bored of the game. And then 343 is like, Griffball's coming back, and then everyone's like, oh my god! And they get back on Halo 5, they play for a few weeks, and then, they start to drop off, and then 343 is like, Infection's coming back, and everyone's like, oh my god! And this cycle repeats over and over and over again. It's basically a way to keep people coming back, and I don't like this system at all, because I don't think it's fair what they're doing to make us come back. And honestly, Halo has always been a series that's prided itself on just how fun it could be because of the amount of options to choose from. If I go on Halo Reach today, there are a ton of playlists to choose from. If I go on Halo 4, again, ton of playlists. If I go on 3, same thing. And when it comes to Halo 5 is no doubt the smallest game in the series behind Halo Combat Evolved. Maybe it's on par with Combat Evolved in terms of game modes and stuff. I don't know. Maybe someone can correct me in the comments section. But I remember even Halo 2 having more game mode options than Halo 5. I also do think that there is a certain level of kind of like the over-optimization topic. Maybe 343 is so scared of their servers, like long matchmaking times, that they're trying to minimize the amount of playlists to keep everybody in certain key playlists and stuff. Like, Shoddy Snipers and Team Snipers, they're very specific playlists that only a small portion of the Halo community will even touch, like, obviously those people, they deserve their Shoddy Snipers and Team Snipers playlists. They absolutely deserve them. But the amount of players that would play that are not enough to kind of justify it having its own playlist with its own dedicated servers, maybe in 343's mind. So in order to keep people on the very popular playlists, they're just kind of removing all the little ones that don't get a lot of attention. And, again, I'm not a fan of that because, well, one of the reasons that Halo's player population drops, now Halo 5 is doing better than Halo 4, contrary to what people believe. Halo 5 has a relatively healthy population considering its sales numbers, but the reason that the populations drop so much in 343's game is because they fail to understand, in my personal opinion, what it is, the allure of Halo matchmaking, like why people play it and why it has such longevity. We need unlocks, we need really good ranking incentives like armors and stuff. We need tons of customization, we need challenges, like weekly, daily challenges to complete. We need lots of options, and with 343, their idea of a ton of options is, oh, you mean Call of Duty loadouts like Halo 4? And it's like, no, no, we don't want that. And then for Halo 5, it's, oh, random number generators. It's like, no, like, give us Halo. We want Halo. Like, stop. That's basically my opinion on the whole thing. Definitely with Halo 5, I think they're getting there. They're starting to understand a little bit better, but, they still got a lot of work to do to kind of get Halo back on track in terms of the multiplayer scene. So, I hope that answers your questions. Oh, wait. No, and to answer your things about the kinetic bolts and attachments and stuff, personally, I'm fine with you know, all the attachments, and I like the way that they work in Warzone, as long as they stay Warzone exclusive. And then your questions about the grenade launcher and the brute motorcycle contraption that you don't really remember the name of. Oh, you mean the chopper? Yeah, the more the merrier. The more that they can bring back from previous Halo games, the better. Even if I don't like the Halo Reach grenade launcher, I won't lie, I'd be kind of psyched to see it return. So I hope that that answers your questions, dude. So we are going to move on to a question from Dank May Maze. He says, "Hey Late Night Gaming, I've been watching your channel for a while now, and I think that it's one of my most favorite channels to tune into. So please keep doing your awesome work." Well, thank you. Now, my question is, how the player, as in us, make an impact on the Halo universe. We've played as nameless characters such as Noble 6, the rookie from Reach and ODST, and even though they had backstories in the Halo universe without them having a name, it made me feel like I was making my own impression on the Halo story. Like your Halo 4, or your Spartan 4 in Halo 4's Spartan Ops. You led operations while investigating Requiem and making you a character that's affecting the universe. I know this is a long shot, but I've always loved Halo games that make the player a character, a part of the universe. For example, Fallout 4. It would be awesome if you could just type in your name for your character and other characters would approach you by saying, "Spartan Blake, we need your assistance getting rid of the Coveys here." Or standing by the Master Chief as you watch a Covenant cruiser fall from the sky as you both cleared the area of enemies to activate AA guns and save the planet. It might not happen with Halo 6, but would you like the idea of making an indent in the universe as you, and not just a character that is already known in the universe? Sorry for the long read, and I hope you get to it. Thanks! So, to answer your question, I agree with you a lot, actually. Some of my favorite moments from the Halo series were from just, like, becoming the character. And Master Chief in the original Halo games, he wasn't very much of a character. Bungie wanted you to play as yourself, but, you know, the Master Chief Collection, if you needed a main character... I said Master Chief Collection. No, the Master Chief... If you needed a main character, you know, he would show a little bit of humanity here and there. So it was kind of like a compromise for people that just wanted a nameless, silent protagonist, and people that maybe wanted a main character to play as. But as Halo 4 came about, obviously we started to get a lot more characterization, and I personally am a big fan of the characterization. Obviously not so much in Halo 5, well, because there isn't any, but I do kind of miss the silent Halo days. I think if Combat Evolved the way the storytelling was not part of the levels and stuff in terms of like your character. Chief only spoke in cutscenes and stuff, and a lot of the major story elements only happened within cutscenes, so it allowed you to immerse yourself in the player because Chief was silent during gameplay. Now obviously 343, they're much more focused on storytelling, so we have Chief just talking constantly during the levels, same with Locke. And in fact, in Halo 5, because you have the option to turn off dialogue, and doing that will actually not disable idle chatter, like the grunts going, "Run away!" when you shoot the elites, I just turn off the dialogue, because I don't want to hear Locke constantly blabbering in my ear. You know, I want to play as Locke. I want to be him, and I'm not going to talk during these missions. So, I actually think this is actually something interesting that I was thinking about. If Microsoft were to bring in another studio to make the Halo franchise, it would, I think, also help 343 in terms of giving them a break, like maybe giving them more time to develop each game, and this other studio could focus on spin-offs. I was even thinking of, obviously, this name I just came up with off the top of my head, Halo Chronicles or something, and essentially each Chronicle game could be a part of a different, like, battle in the Halo universe. Like, we could have, like, Halo Chronicle Harvest or something, and basically you could play at the Battle of Harvest, and that way we could kind of play as these nameless, faceless protagonists and become a part of the Halo universe, kind of like you said, to give us a break in between the more story-driven Halo games featuring the Master Chief. So I don't know, tell me what you guys think about all of this, and we are going to move on to a question from Sean Johnson, who says, Q&A, do you think that 343 kind of played with our minds with the memories of Reach Rec preview with the Oni symbol hiding the Phaeton Helios? like update dedicated to Reach. Josh Holmes said no human air vehicles at launch. So it would seem reasonable to hide a Falcon. What are your thoughts? So Josh Holmes did say that. He said no human air vehicles at launch, kind of alluding to the fact that maybe in the future we might see the Falcon. Now, I know that 343 has a lot of stuff planned, a lot of stuff that I'm very excited about when they reveal it, but I wouldn't doubt if they actually are planning a Falcon. Now, personally, I think it's a little bit strange that they didn't include the Falcon with the Memories of Reach. Like, that seems like almost, you know, game, like 101, you know, it's called Memories of Reach, includes something, a fan favorite air vehicle that we've been requesting since Halo 4 that featured in Reach. Like, bring it back during that update, but sadly, that did not happen. Instead, we got a reskinned Phaeton, and I don't know, overall I think Memories of Reach was a very big missed opportunity in a lot of areas for creativity and really capitalizing on fan nostalgia, but I'll get into that definitely in another video. But yeah, no, I absolutely do think it was very unfair to kind of allude to the fact that it was going to be something amazing, like something so awesome, they literally had to hide it from us behind a Oni symbol. And then when they lifted the veil, it's just another Phaeton. But I hope that answers your question. So we're going to close this week with a question from Transforming BU, who says, Q&A. The question is at the end of this long spill. I am new to your channel. Like a lot of the other Q&As, have popped... Wait. Hang on. Okay, I just had like a little mini stroke there. Okay, let's try this again. Q&A. The question is at the end of this long spill. I am new to your channel like a lot of the other Q&As that have popped up in your videos. And I love a lot of what you have to say, as I agree with most of it. As far as the stories and campaigns go in the series, I liked Halo 1, and I absolutely loved Halo 2, except for not having a Warthog race against the time set at the end, which while we are on it, why didn't they? I loved Halo 3 even more, and when Reach came out, I was surprised by how good it was despite not having Chief in it. I would say it was one of the most fun and memorable Halo campaigns I have ever played. So, aside from the multiplayer of Reach, I think I heard you say you are not very fond of the Reach campaign either, and I want to ask, might you have overlooked it? And if not, what are the biggest reasons for thinking it isn't a very good campaign? Specifically, I liked that most of the characters had some kind of heroic death, and their deaths, besides Cat's, were all meaningful, at least in the moment, talking about George's death. In the game, I felt like an actual team that was being assigned to all sorts of different tasks that Spartans would normally be assigned to in an invasion. It felt realistic to me. Is this all just from nostalgia or from a different time, or can merit be given to the story of Halo Reach? Please keep this up, and I hope 343 takes what you have to say wholeheartedly and makes the next Halo campaign better and more memorable. So thank you for all that you have to say. I'm sorry you had trouble reading that. I don't know, suddenly I'm really tired. But, so to answer your questions about Reach, for the Reach campaign for me, I'm not going to say, oh, it sucked. No, I understand completely why people liked it, and the reasons why people like it, I really appreciate the Reach campaign. And the thing is also, Reach's campaign, as a Halo game, it's not my favorite campaign in the series, but as a shooter, I would play Reach any day, because Reach is still a great game. You know, like, in my personal opinion, I think I've said that before, that even a bad Halo game is still usually much higher up on the pedestal in terms of, like, the shooter genre and quality. Like, Halo Reach has an incredibly well-designed campaign. And I really do think that people give it too much flack by saying, oh, it's terrible, Reach sucks. It's like, compared to Battlefield 3's campaign, compared to, I don't know, any of the Call of Duty campaigns, no, Halo Reach had a pretty damn good campaign. Maybe a little bit disappointing for a Halo game, but definitely still a great first-person shooter campaign. But for me personally, when it comes to the story of Reach, the reason Reach never gripped me was because Reach was designed kind of like the old days of shooters, where there really wasn't a main character. There wasn't, and then on top of that, the story wasn't really about the characters themselves, it was more about this grand overarching theme. And so obviously, like, the big thing is Reach, and a lot of the missions in Halo Reach were destroy this, destroy that, go rescue these people. And there was a certain element of hopelessness, but sadly, because I didn't feel like I was accomplishing anything in the campaign, like everything just kind of like got, you know, stepped on and stuff. I think of George's death, how it's like, oh good, you blew up one Covenant ship, well guess what, here are hundreds more. It's like nothing, I was being rewarded with nothing in terms of the story and stuff, so sadly it became a little bit tedious in terms of the storytelling. I stopped caring about the characters, I stopped caring about the setting that we were in, because I'm like, what does it matter, we're all gonna die anyway. Which, I mean, obviously I think that's kind of what they were going for with the story, to invoke those emotions, but for me personally, it kind of had the unintended effect of, yeah, I really became detached from the campaign. I wasn't very compelled. I didn't really care about any of Noble Team because I knew they were all going to die anyway. I thought they were relatively underwritten, and a lot of the objectives in the campaign weren't the most interesting. I think of, like, storming the Citadel on the Ark and how awesome that was, fighting with the Flood, versus being in New Alexandria and just getting survivors from buildings. Like, you know, it was just, if that makes any sense. Now, obviously, that being said, Halo Reach was still a great shooter campaign, just definitely not my favorite Halo campaigns. I hope I explained that well. Maybe you guys in the comment section can explain more in detail some of the things that you loved about Reach's campaigns. But that wraps up this week, guys. I know this was a little bit of a long one, but ask your questions down below and stay tuned for next week's Q&A, and I'll see you guys on the next video.